Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, you thirsty bunch of beer drinkers, whenever and wherever you're tuning in from. Thanks for pressing play on this episode of Between Two Fermenters, a podcast brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery. I'm your host, Troy Burtch, and we have another great episode in store for you. We'll be talking bar and restaurant sales, the fun stuff of the beer industry. People think it's all fun and games, parties and lots of liquid lunches, late nights and keg stands. We've talked about this on the show before, but we're going to talk to some folks today who sell beer to bar and restaurants, and we're going to talk to people that buy beer for bar and restaurants. It's going to be a very educational and inspiring, if I dare say so, episode. Being a beer rep is a lot harder than one would think. You know, we have talked about this in the past on this show about the liquid lunches, the parties, the late nights, and the late mornings getting to work at a later time of the day. But like I said, it's a lot harder than you'd think. You have licensees. That's what we in the industry call bar and restaurants. They're calling you at all hours of the day, all hours of the night, trying to put in an order last minute, trying to get beer to their location the very next day. You have draft lines acting up, product delays at your own brewery. You have to compete with your friends, other craft breweries, and then you have to compete with the mass conglomerate breweries who, often play nasty games out there. We're also going to talk to a bar owner in this city, and bar and restaurants have been hit hard over the last number of years. COVID has been a big thing. In Toronto, bars and restaurants were shut down for an enormous amount of time during the pandemic, and they're still trying to catch up. They have inflation. Everything's going up in price. Brewery glassware, brewery ingredients, and that's passed along to the bar and restaurant owners who then in turn have to pass that along to consumers. The Uber and the takeout model, more and more people are staying home and eating at home and purchasing beer from another source and drinking it at home. And we've lost some of that social interaction that bars and pubs provide and are known for, and we want to bring that back to not only Toronto, but to the province. So, we've seen beer reps too, who used to solely focus on bar sales. Now that are hybrid, they're selling to bar, restaurants, and LCBO beer store and grocery stores. It's becoming a harder job, and you have to be a little bit of everything. A social media ninja. You have to be, almost a counselor sometimes. And with the rise of RTDs and non-alcoholic and bar and restaurants simply shutting down, it has been a lot tougher slog over the last number of years. So we're going to talk about that today, but we're going to celebrate this segment of the industry with Kristen McNeil. She's the owner and operator of Round the Horn here in Toronto, and Jeremy Boyd, a licensee sales rep for Great Lakes Brewery. So let's crack a knuck, buckle up, and we'll get on with the show.
So you're here because you love beer, right? Nothing beats the right beer at the right time with the right group of people. And at GLB Etobicoke, we're all about making that experience happen day in and day out. Join us for our full slate of events on our cozy heated patio with Euchre Wednesdays, Trivia Thursdays, and live music Fridays, all hosted by our certified stellar taproom team in the heart of South Etobicoke. Join the community and tip back a frosty one while you're at it at 30 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard.
All right, we're here with Kristen McNeil from Round the Horn. She is the owner of Round the Horn, an amazing bar and restaurant here in Toronto at 331 Roncesvalles. They have 14 taps, a diverse menu of amazing hot dogs. They're longtime supporters and partners of Great Lakes and we have done some great events and brews together. Welcome to the show, Kristen.
Thanks for having me.
And first things first, let's crack a beer.
Okay.
All right. What do you have?
I've got a Canuck.
What do I got?
You've got a Canuck.
All right.
It's the right choice.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, Kristen, let's learn a little bit about you. Who are you and what do you do?
I am Kristen, and I am the owner of Round the Horn, which is, as you said, 331 Roncesvalles. We've been there for 8 years now.
You opened in December 2015?
December 23rd, 2015.
Yeah, December 23rd.
Yep.
Yeah, I was looking back at the Instagram doing, my crack research for this episode, and I was going all the way back, and I didn't see a date. I just saw 2015, but that's crazy. So the day before, were you busy did you open on Christmas Eve?
We did, yeah.
And how was it?
It was good.
Yeah?
I think it was busier on the 23rd. It was by accident because I didn't tell anyone I was opening. I was just ready and I did it.
People were just walking by. And, yeah. How many taps did you have back then? Did you have 14 right at the start?
No. So when I first took over, there was 0. because it was a wine bar.
Okay.
And
So
then
there's just lots of cans and...
by the 23rd, I managed to get 4 taps.
Okay. Not Great Lakes, though.
No.
Okay, we're going to talk
There
about
was
that
only
later.
4 taps.
Yeah, that's 4 Great Lakes. We have a lot. No, we're going to talk about that later. So I love Round the Horn. The staff love Round the Horn. Just a couple weeks ago, the whole team, it seemed like, was there. How did I do in describing, in that 4 little seconds of Round the Horn? Give us a little bit of background on where it is, who it is, what you guys do, what makes it so amazing.
Well, as it's been called, it's an unassuming sports bar. So we do sports well. But it's also just a place where people come to talk to each other and meet people and hang out and just have a cozy, relaxed vibe.
And you guys have an amazing patio at the back.
We do.
Would you say it's an underrated or not as well known patio in the city of Toronto?
I think so. Like it's cute. It's trees and gardens and quiet and off the strip. Like
I hate when those like Blog TO or whatever lists come out. Like the best patios in Toronto, and you can obviously see they've been paid for. When there's so many of these hidden patios in neighborhoods that just offer so much more than just sitting on a picnic table on a street.
yeah.
What were the early days like? You just mentioned you had, it was a wine bar, and then you went with 4 taps right at the beginning. But what were the early days like around the Horn?
Well, that was it. Trying to get the taps in. I mean, I feel like I had 1,000 cans at that time, but getting the taps in hodgepodge, just with a kegerator underneath the counter and adding them and putting fridges everywhere to keep things backed up cold. And then finally, after a year, I had made enough to put in a walk-in and the draft system and start going in the direction I wanted to go.
And how was the food menu back then?
Originally, it was only hot dogs.
Which is awesome.
Who doesn't love a hot dog? But we've evolved since then. For a while, we were doing burgers and wings, but that was all done through a barbecue, which is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Now we've transformed into more like sandwiches and hot dogs and nachos and ballpark food.
Nice. And so is this your first bar that you've owned?
Yes.
Yeah. So what drove you to be a bar owner?
Years of bar management. I originally started bartending to pay for university. And then I like it. I'm good at it. I've been managing since I was 18. And then it just got to the point where if I'm doing it for somebody else, I should just do it for myself.
And do you regret that decision?
Sometimes.
Yeah, to be honest. Yeah.
We're being honest here, right?
So you said you started it with a couple 4 taps, and then you had a lot of cans. Why? Because Round the Horn's really well known for supporting local breweries. You don't have a mass-produced beer in available for customers to buy. What made you choose to support local breweries?
Well, kind of the same reason I want people to support local bars, not franchises. And if I want people to support me, I should support my neighborhood and my province and get people's awareness about craft beer and different styles and flavors and breweries. And
would you say that's worked well in your favor?
I think so. At the start, it was a little rough because everybody just assumed craft beer meant like IPA, and that was it. And it's fun for me to get people to try different things and learn different styles that they like.
So do you think now, if you were to say one day, fuck it, I'm just going to go and get big deals from the big
deals
brewers.
are so sweet. It's so tempting.
But if a big brewer came in and said, look, you have 14 taps. I want half of them right now, and this is what I'm going to do for you. And I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Do you think that would hurt the bar?
I think so. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would hurt me.
Yeah.
I mean, it would help me, but it would hurt me. And it does happen. Like the reps from the bigger, like Molson and Labatt, come in and they're like, still a waste of time? I'm like, yeah. Like, you want the samples anyway? I was like, I guess I can try what I'm going to drink at the Jays game.
Well, you can cook with it too, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's a famous quote from The Office. Best show ever. So that's interesting to hear. I was going to ask that it seems more and more that our industry, our small craft industry, the doors are being knocked on of bars and restaurants by the bigger companies. Like they went away for a little bit, said bar and restaurants is not really worth our investment, but we're seeing and hearing that more are coming out and they're doing these offers, if you will. So you said they keep coming around?
Yeah, they still come around.
All right. So we'll have to warn our reps to keep an eye on that.
Stay on their toes.
But on behalf of the whole industry, then thank you for continuing to believe in local and support local breweries. What has changed the most in bar and restaurants since you opened? The biggest change since you opened?
In what regards?
Anything.
People are moving away from beer. I've noticed, like more people drinking RTDs and ciders and staying away from beer. But there's still a love for beer.
Yeah, we're seeing that at retail as well. We've seen these ebb and flows over the years of people going to a different style of, the lime beers over the years, and then moving into big IPAs, and then going down to RTDs or wine even. So we hope that's an ebb and flow that will come back in our favor.
Yep.
But as a bar owner, do you try to dissuade people from that and just, hey, we sell beer, this is what our thing is? Or have you evolved to carry some of those products?
I was stubborn to go with it, but I realized now I kind of have to.
Yeah.
Like, give the people what they want.
Do you carry our vodka soda?
No.
Okay. Well, we'll have to get your rep on that.
Sorry, Jeremy.
So you said you've been in the industry since you were 18, when you're paying your way through university. What aspects of ownership or management were a lot harder than you anticipated when starting out around the horn? Your own spot, you thought, oh, this is going to be fun. I've managed places before. Now I own a place. I
don't think I wasn't that naive. Like I've been around this business for a long time. I know everything's broken all the time. I know it's not pretty. It's not glamorous. There's gross things that happen. I think the biggest is not having a boss.
Yeah. You're your boss.
Yeah. It's easy. Like when you manage and like big problem happens, you just kind of have to tell the owner and they deal with it. But now that's me.
And how do you deal with your staff if they have issues?
My staff is great.
You do have an amazing staff.
Over half of them have been there the whole time.
I was going to say, longevity wise, there's another place in Toronto that I think of when I think of people that have stayed in hospitality for a long time. It's the Granite Brewery. They have some of their original people in the back of house that have been there since 91, 92. But yeah, so how do you bring those people into your world and make sure they're happy and stay there?
That's one of the focuses, because you do want, it's very important to have a staff that you trust, that respects you, that will work with you, and you don't want to keep training new people all the time. So.
You can take a vacation.
Yeah.
When was the last time you took a vacation?
10 years ago.
10 years.
No, wait, I went to Nashville 2 years ago.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you go to the purple bar? It's a great, I can't think of what it's called now, and that's embarrassing, but it's right on Broadway.
I'm sure I did.
Yeah, you probably did. Yeah.
Probably went to
It's a favorite of Great Lakes, and now I can't think of the name. So being in the industry a long time and round the horn at 331 Roncy, it's a neighborhood local bar, very community oriented. You've probably got to know a lot of customers very intimately, like friends and almost like family. Do you have a favorite bar story that's happened with any of your customers?
I don't know. Favorites are hard. It is, as you say, like such a community bar, and it's great because everybody, like, you walk in a stranger and then you meet your best friend, and it's been years of that. I know, like at the 8th anniversary, like this past December, watching everybody talk to each other and have fun and singing karaoke with people all ages, like just being buds. That's fun.
Right at the top of the show, I mentioned that bar and restaurants have taken a big hit over the last number of years with COVID and now inflation. And we've lost that social, not awareness, but the social interaction that they're famous for. People are ordering Uber and staying home more. And so you mentioned the 8th anniversary, seeing people talk to you. Have you noticed that people who have come in strangers are now coming together as friends through Round the Horn?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And what does that make you feel like when you see that?
It makes me happy.
Do you think like you've succeeded now, that like this was your goal in opening a bar?
Maybe not the end goal, but it's very rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And just on that, how has the Roncy neighborhood embraced you guys?
Very accepting. Like I have myself lived there for 20 years. So I did know people in the neighborhood, but now it's become kind of like the hub. If you need information, they come to the bar and ask me questions.
And I was going to say, like 10 years ago when you were opening, or you're hitting your 10th anniversary, I guess next year?
9 next year.
9 next year. So you're like the community hub. People come to you. Have you seen the Roncy evolve around you over that time?
In some ways, I suppose. Like it's a bit of an institution on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Not.
Yeah, humble brag.
Yeah,
you can. And I got to ask this question just because it comes to mind, because I love going there and having the Chicago dog is my favorite. But beer reps, we had a couple over the years that, our expense accounts or their expense accounts, like, okay, you've been to Around the Horn 4 times this month. I get it. What do they need help with? It seems like they like hot dogs. And how many hot dogs would you say you sell the beer reps in a year? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, that's a big number.
Hundreds? Thousands?
Probably.
If it's Barry Pletch. Probably.
Well, then we're in the thousands, okay. I think.
How's Jeremy doing?
Jeremy's okay.
Yeah, Jeremy Boyd's our licensee rep, who's going to be on the show later on. And he's the rep for Around the Horn. I know he likes his hot dogs too.
Sure.
So tell us about the hot dogs. Tell everyone about the hot dogs because they're amazing.
Everyone. Okay.
The entire world's listening.
Hot dogs.
To this.
They're like street meat hot dogs. We noticed you couldn't really get street meat anywhere west of Ossington, so let's do hot dogs. Ballpark themed. I mean, way better than Toonie Tuesday.
Oh, 100% they are. A lot more affordable.
Yeah.
Well, Toonie Tuesday, yeah, but that's one time.
Yeah.
Or 4 times a year. Well, what kind of flavors and what do you do on them? Yeah, like I said, you're the Chicago dog.
Chicago Dog Classic, Coney Island. I think our biggest seller is probably the Mac Daddy, which is like a Big Mac, but a hot dog.
I got to say, I haven't had that before, but our senior sales manager, Jen, that's her favorite one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What else do you got on the menu? You said you've evolved into some wings and...
So not the wings anymore.
Not the wings anymore.
Don't upset the people. Sandwiches, we do Reuben's, Montreal smoked meats, a jerk chicken sandwich, which is another rep favorite. Nachos with jerk chicken on them.
Nice. And tell us about the bar, the taps. You have 14, and I know a number of them are Great Lakes. Thank you. You guys came around, and we actually got you a rep that could wanted to sell beer.
Barry showed up.
Yeah, that's right. I have to tell a Barry story with you later on. And Barry is no longer with Great Lakes. He works for Left Field Brewery, and so a big shout out to Barry. Do you remember the wedding you guys hosted? It was for a customer named...
I remember the wedding.
It was Miranda, right?
Yeah.
And we had kegs, or we had bottles of No Chance with Miranda, our farmhouse saison. And we did have a couple of kegs that were aging. And Barry, being Barry, donned a tuxedo and delivered the keg of No Chance with Miranda to Around the Horn in a tuxedo. Yeah. And it's one of the best memories I have of Barry working at Great Lakes.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It's pretty amazing. And it really solidified him as a guy who really cares about his accounts. For sure. Yeah. No, so we got to get Jeremy in a tuxedo for a delivery for something.
Jeremy's taking notes.
I got to ask you too about your involvement with Cans for Kids, because Great Lakes is a massive supporter of Southern Ontario Beer Boys. We do the Cans for Kids drive with them every year. Humble brag for us. Yeah. We could say that we, always raise the most amount of cans and donations. And during COVID, I think you and the team came to the brewery and donated thousands of empties. Mm-hmm. Now you're still carrying on with that. You're actually driving them to Burlington, or are they coming to pick up?
Steve comes to us when he's in town.
So maybe he can tell us why you work with them and why it's so important to the bar.
I think a couple of years, like pre-COVID, you guys had the empties drive with them, and we did the same thing, brought over everything, met them, saw what they were up to, and decided we wanted to get on board with it. We could take our empties back, but why not donate them? If you can give them to somebody that's going to donate them to the Children's Hospital, then it's worth it.
So for context, Cans for Kids listeners is run by Southern Ontario Beer Boys. Steve and a number of people that kind of support him, and they do can drives. They do a baseball tournament as well, and all the money that they raise goes back to McMaster's Children's Hospital in Hamilton. So longtime supporters, Great Lakes has been, and it's great to see you doing that. And I think it deserves acknowledgement that you guys continue to do that with them. And do you know how many cans you've donated since you started, or Steve started to come to you?
It's a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's ballpark it.
It's over 1,000 every time he comes.
Over 1,000.
And he'll
Nice.
come like maybe once a month.
Oh, okay. So then you've been doing it for probably 3 or 4 years now?
4.
Oh, so congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Any last words about what Round the Horn is before we're going to introduce a new segment today?
Oh, great.
It's called Rapid Fire Questions. But anything you want to say about Round the Horn, just give it a plug. Tell the listeners again why they should come and
Come to the bar, support local,
drink.
drink.
What beer?
Great
Maybe a round
Lakes
the
beer.
horn lager or something like that. Okay, are you ready for round the fire rapid fire questions?
Rapid fire. Pew, pew.
Let's have a quick sip of our Canuck and then get the tones ready. All right, you ready to do this?
Ready.
What's your best-selling hot dog at Round the Horn?
Mac Daddy.
Mac, that you just said that already. Super Bowl or Game 7 of the World Series?
Lucky for me, they're not in the same month.
Oh, if you had to pick one, though.
Wow. No, I'm not picking.
You're not going to pick
No.
one? Okay.
No.
Stanley
Both.
Cup
Why not
or
both?
Game 7 of the World Series? But the logo is all baseball.
It's all baseball, but that doesn't mean it has to always be baseball.
Okay, now this isn't part of my rapid fire question,
Okay.
but see, this is I'm a bad interviewer, I guess. Tell us about the logo. It's got 2 baseball bats, a baseball diamond, and a baseball.
Yeah, baseball. Round the horn.
Yeah, I get it. I get that reference. But how'd you come up with the logo?
I actually had a graphic designer do it for me.
Nice. And I should have asked, because now, see, this is how bad I am. Why'd you come up with the name Around the Horn?
That one, it kind of just landed on our lap. Like I said it.
Yeah.
It's obviously baseball, but also how we say things in our family. Like, do you want a drink? Do you want a drink? Do you want a drink? Yeah, Round the Horn. And I
nice.
ordered drinks like that one day when I was having a meeting about the bar. And
There
I was
you go.
like, oh,
That's an
that's the
interesting
name of the bar.
story.
Yeah,
And are you a big baseball fan then?
I do like the baseball.
Okay. Jays or
Jays.
who
Jays
else? Yeah,
baseball.
Jays. Who's your favorite Blue Jay?
All of them?
Oh, you have to pick one. Pick one.
Uh,
She's going to go with Romano.
am I?
I don't know.
I was going to go back to like Kelly Gruber.
Oh, way back. Okay.
Whoa.
I was talking about like
I think as a
current
kid, I
Jays.
like to say Jesse Barfield too.
Jesse
That
Barfield
fun.
was my favorite as a kid. My favorite Blue Jay of all time is Pat Borders.
Nice.
Something rustic about that guy.
Yep.
And he could take a hit at the plate. It's not like today where you slide into the catcher and
Yeah.
jump over. He used to get run over a lot, and he'd
It's
always
tough.
hold on to the ball. Best part of operating a bar on Roncy?
Oh, there's so many best parts.
I would just say being in Roncy.
Being around, it's,
Okay,
like,
there
it's
we
nice
go.
to be in the middle of Roncy. I kind of
Round the Horn
Definitely.
Lager, Burst, or Canuck Pale Ale?
Canuck.
Nice. Favorite bar other than Round the Horn?
That's a trick question.
Do you go to other bars?
Not
Canuck?
often.
But if you do.
No, we were for a while. We were closed on Tuesdays. We're now open on Tuesdays. But us, like the staff, would try and go out and watch baseball somewhere on Tuesdays.
So anywhere that has a TV
Yeah.
and has the Blue Jays on.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, last question. Best part of your patio at Round the Horn?
I would say the gardens. My mom does the gardens, and she does a great job.
How much do you pay her?
I pair in hot dogs,
In beer or just hot dogs?
just hot dogs.
Amazing. What's her favorite hot dog?
She likes the sauerkraut.
Okay, awesome. Good work, Mama McNeil. Okay, one last time, tell us where someone can find Round the Horn.
Round the
Do you have any
Horn?
merch available? I'm wearing a nice...
You're wearing one of the loveliest zip-up sweaters I've ever seen.
And where can you get that?
You can get that at 331 Roncesvalles, around the horn. We got T-shirts and toques as well.
Lots of beer, lots of hot dogs, lots of seating to watch the game, and an amazing backyard patio. We need champions in this industry. Kristen is one of them. She supports local. She speaks out on the state of the industry. She and her bar are part of Toronto's fabric, and it's been a pleasure to have you in the studio today to tell us all about it. Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks, Troy.
Where can you get 20 taps of GLB beer, killer pizzas, or one of Toronto's best smash burgers while watching the game on big screens, playing trivia with your team, having lunch with your mates, or a night out with the gang?
Right here at the GLB Brew Pub, our second Great Lakes Brewery location in downtown Toronto, with fresh beer coming daily from the brewery in Etobicoke, plus exclusive beer brewed in-house. It's like a GLB tap takeover every day. We've got events and specials all week long.
Come visit us on Lower Jarvis by Sugar Beach. Follow GLB_brewpub on Instagram, or check out our menu and events online at greatlakesbrewpub.com.
Okay, we're back on the pod, and we have Jeremy Boyd. Jeremy, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day in Toronto.
And you already cracked the knuck.
I think you might be able to hear
just
it
for the sound. There we go.
There we go.
Jeremy Boyd's with us. He's the licensee sales rep for Great Lakes, and Jeremy, you do sales west of. Tell us your territory.
Yeah, I mean,
all over the place.
It's a little over the place. It's considered West GTA. I more or less go everywhere west of Roncesvalles, but there's a couple dips into Parkdale and across the city that we've sort of shared territories. So it's basically west of Ronci.
Okay. And you've been with Great Lakes since 2021.
Yes, I have.
I remember getting a call from you. I think it was a call or a text saying, hey, I'm looking for something.
Yeah.
And all that we had at that point was a home delivery driver. And we didn't interview you. I remember that. We just said, hey, this guy wants a job. I know him. Let's hire him. So we stole you from Clifford Brewery.
Yes.
And you weren't a stranger even before that. You were a customer of Great Lakes. And I occasionally got you and another fella confused because you do have a doppelganger that shops at Great Lakes. And so when the opening came up, it was a no-brainer. You're one of the nicest fellas in beer. And when we needed to get someone to be a sales rep, you stepped up, and here you are.
Yeah, my you mentioned that I was a long-time customer of Great Lakes. I used to have a job that involved going to the airport fairly often to pick up people. And I found as soon as I noticed that Great Lakes was just off the highway, just off the Gardner, that my trips to the airport I'd have to leave a little bit early and possibly even have time for a beer before I drove to the airport. But
responsibly,
of course,
yeah.
Just to do a sample or something. And that sort of became my routine. And eventually, I think my wife just mentioned to me once when we were on a vacation going to a craft brewery, she said, why don't you just work in the beer industry? All you ever do is go to craft breweries and drink beer. You might as well work in it. And here we are. I'm happily involved.
Hang on to her.
Yeah, I did. I did somehow against all odds.
So you wanted to be a beer rep, though.
Yeah.
Was that the original goal, was to be a beer rep?
You know what?
Do you regret it now?
I mean, how long do you want this interview to go on? Yeah, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I moved to Hamilton in 2017. There was a brewery that was just about ready to start hiring there, Clifford Brewing. Shout out to my friend Brad Clifford, and I just happened to be there at the right time. I basically was his first employee, and we did a little bit of everything, including sales. But I was, basically helping him brew, helping him sell the beer, serve the beer, drive it around with home deliveries, drive it around to bars and restaurants, a little bit of everything.
So you got to learn the ins and outs of pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Except brewing. Or did you brew?
I mean, I helped him brew, but I would never be able to turn on the brew house and get a lager brew going. Well, that's easy.
You just flick the switch on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And you have, and in 1 hour's time, you'll have a beer. That's what I figure.
That's what the brewers do all day.
Yeah.
Yep. Just like they think the beer reps, keg stands at lunch, and they're out on these big expensive, hot dog is the typical expense on your expense account, I've noticed.
Oh yeah.
You're not going out for those big steak dinners. So walk us through a typical day as a beer rep. Touch on the early days of when you started as a beer rep to, how you've evolved.
Yeah. I mean, I've only been in this role about a year, and I'm still learning a lot of new things all the time, but it basically, the best part about the job that I've found, or the easiest part maybe, is to work with great people. And happen to know people in the beer industry, some sales reps, and lean on them for tips and advice. But basically the average day for me is get up in the morning and
I'm glad you get up in the morning. That's a good sign. It's a good start.
Yeah, that's a good start. And usually I got some emails and things to look after. Sometimes we got to handle sending emails and trying to get payment out of bars and restaurants. Sometimes people are a little bit, they need a little bit of a reminder on that front. So that's a big part of the day. And then usually you can find the time to go out and, maybe do some cold calling or just pop in and see people that you from your territory and check in on things. And, sometimes somebody needs a new tap handle. Sometimes a keg gets undelivered by someone, so you have to pick up the slack. But yeah, it's a lot of meeting new people, talking to people, and working on the relationships you have.
And how do you choose which bars and restaurants to target? You just get into the car and just walk into a place. Hey, I work for Great Lakes.
It's a good question because I think a lot of people just assume that every bar and restaurant would be open to trying a new beer just because you walk in the door. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. So sometimes you have to sort of like figure out the places that are, you can introduce yourself and pick up on a vibe pretty quickly, but sometimes you have to be persistent.
So
and
you do some research though?
I try and do some research at least. If you're walking into a place cold, you might want to just sort of look around and see what kind of a beer they're serving already. Maybe you want to look and see the kind of menu they have and the kind of people that are eating or attending this restaurant or licensee or whatever it is. And, you sort of try and imagine, is this a good fit for you before you even bother the manager or bother to ask for someone. There's a lot of places out there that, it's pretty clear when you walk in, they're only serving beer from the large macro breweries. Sometimes, there might still be a window in there in those places. But oftentimes there is not.
So that's kind of a nice segue into to the next part. As a rep, how do you handle the question? So what can you do for me?
Well, I haven't had that specific question in those exact words, but I have had people ask me, is there any kind of leeway on things that Great Lakes might be able to do for them? If they're comparing, trying to get a deal, those kind of things don't really happen from craft breweries as far as I can tell. And what we can do for them though, usually I just sort of approach the idea, well, we're a local brewery employing a lot of people. We're part of the community. I mean, we have that kind of value system going for us, and we got great beer. It's incredible prices. I sort of try and figure out what they're looking for in a partner. Sometimes there's people out there that you can kind of tell they're only looking for a free keg or a deal that you just probably can't get. And that's probably not worth your time, but maybe you can make a small suggestion and nudge them along the way to hopefully understand your point of view. And sometimes a keg deal isn't really worth it if you're already giving a great product at a low price anyway. So, the deal is kind of built into a great beer, supporting a local company. But you have to find the partner that works for you and with you.
Well, you passed the test. Good answer. The customer service is a huge part of the job. You mentioned you might have to do an emergency delivery or troubleshoot something. So how do you maintain good relations with accounts when faced with? We're not immune to it. Sometimes we might say we have a product that's going to be ready this day, but it's delayed for whatever reason. So how do you maintain that good customer service relations?
Yeah, I mean, I've found that most of the people I work with are like, not everyone is always going to be in a good mood, and you don't know what's going on in their lives, but most of the people I work with are very understanding of any kind of like issues and things like that. And as long as you sort of think about what you're going to say, if they send you a nasty text or some kind of email that's inexplicably rude, you try and understand, well, okay, we don't know what's going on exactly in their day. Maybe something's happened. So I try and look at it like if you get a lot of negativity right out the get-go, maybe just take a breath and think back and try and come up with something that's not going to be too agitating in that regard. I sort of learned that from some other sales reps that have been in the business longer.
Another good segue. You're doing good at this.
Hey.
So the segue, can you describe the importance of working closely with other breweries for sharing of information, contact info, etc.?
Yeah, that's something I'd like to do even more. But one of the reasons why I'm in this industry in the first place is I became friends with a sales rep who's currently working at Oast House, a guy named Mick McNamara. Shout out to Mick. It's his fault. I don't know if I should just
Salancheva.
Yeah. But Mick and I met more than 10 years ago, probably. It was about 12 years ago. And we sort of hit it off. We met at a beer event, and then we just kept on bumping into each other because we lived in the same neighborhood. But Mick's a great guy to know in the industry. The guy who had my role previously, Barry Pletch, I got to know him through Mick. And then when I worked at Great Lakes, I've met lots of great sales reps, lots of great people out there. It's really fun to sort of bump into them casually and get to know them. Sometimes there's the events that are actually planned, and you go and you're going to meet people there. But it's even more fun to sort of like be in a bar and like, oh yeah, you work at so-and-so. I work at Great Lakes.
And you guys swap information with each other. Yeah. Swapping
information. Sometimes you get a sort of read on a potential account, or sometimes you get, maybe, valuable information on, this account is struggling, or this account, maybe it's an easier way to deal with them. It's great. It's a great way to share things. And of course you're usually having a beer and having a laugh too, but, or maybe you're just commiserating over the state of the industry post COVID or something. But, there's great people in the beer industry, and that's probably the best thing about it. I mean,
people.
Yeah. People, besides drinking great beer, which is not a bad perk
great
either.
People.
Yeah. But honestly, having laughs with people, and that's probably the best part of my job. Great staff at Great Lakes, but also lots of people in the different parts of the industry that I get to meet.
Last question before we get into rapid fire. We did this. This is a brand new thing. Kristen took the hit on the first interview. Describe your work-life balance. You don't just drink beer all day like your wife thinks you do, right? So we're trying
not to.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw you under the bus here.
Sure.
You got Timothy's Pub, a nice little pub in Etobicoke.
Yep.
You weren't supposed to be drinking, and you had a beer with me one day. So Maureen, if you're listening, he had a beer that day.
That was work related, though. I didn't think those counted. No, yeah, that's true. I did do that. Like work-life balance. I'm really lucky because probably, I don't know if, every sales rep in the industry can say this. I actually live in my territory, which is a great perk. So I live really close to Roncesvalles on the junction, and I can walk to a lot of accounts that I work with, which I try to use my feet rather than just drive everywhere. And it's great. The work-life balance. My wife is a great understander and partner, and we have a couple dogs that we walk every day in High Park, and that's my best part of my day. I get to enjoy for some people, they don't even know what a great hidden gem High Park is in Toronto, to be able to be somewhere and you're 5 minutes away from the gardener, but you can't tell because you see deer and you see people just enjoying nature. And it's I'm really lucky to live in this part of Toronto, and having lived in Hamilton and then moving back to Toronto every day, my wife and I, we still say, we're so lucky that we managed to get back here. And there's so many great parts about Toronto that we enjoy. But as far as work-life balance, my wife happens to understand if I say on a Saturday, so-and-so bar didn't get a keg, so I'm going to run over to Great Lakes to get it to them or something like that. Maybe she just likes getting to me out of the house. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go to rapid fire. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
These are really tough.
I'm going to need one sip of Canuck for every question, though.
So you remember, these are rapid fire questions, rapid fire answers. Let's go. Best part of your job?
As I mentioned, the people. I mean, yeah, lots of fun, lots of laughs, great friendships over the years.
Worst part of your job?
Worst part of my job might be trying to get people to pay their bills. There's a few accounts that are a little challenging, and that's not the part that's fun. No. You're getting emails back saying,
never has been.
Yeah. You get people say, oh yeah, I'm going to send that e-transfer right now. Could you send me a keg? Yeah.
Quit bugging me for money or I'm going to take you off tap.
Yeah. I mean, you get all kinds, but that's probably the worst part.
Craziest request from an account?
Craziest request. Well, I don't know if it qualifies as crazy. I've certainly had accounts that ask for a lot of, free kegs of beer, like thousands of dollars worth of beer without ever having spent money on one keg yet.
We had one account and one rep that was asked to go and do a nude tasting.
Oh yeah. That's a legendary story. Yeah.
What beer from another brewery do you really enjoy?
Oh, wow. I worked for 3 years at Clifford Brewing and, I still love, the Clifford Porter. It's a wonderful beer. That's probably my go-to if I'm looking for a porter that isn't Great Lakes.
Name one embarrassing thing you've done at an account.
Oh yeah, actually, Kristen might remember this. I think my first week on the job.
You tried to sell Clifford when you're working for Great Lakes?
No, but no, I got a work phone that had a lot of contacts in it, and I sort of added to the contacts and. Kristen at Round the Horn entered an order on a Monday or Tuesday, and I put it in, and then a few days later I got a text message from a Kristen for another beer order. It was basically identically the same, and I thought, oh, I guess they need more beer at Round the Horn. Oh, so I put the order in, and then Kristen at Round the Horn said, hey, why did you send me 2 orders this week? Turns out I had 2 managers named Kristen, 2 different bars. So luckily I was able to sort it all out, and the person that didn't get the order got their beer, and Kristen didn't care because she was going to sell the beer anyways, but that was pretty embarrassing. So from then on, I learned that you have to really watch your contacts list.
So way to go back in time and tie this whole episode together. There we go. Good job. How do you motivate yourself to get up and at it early in the morning? Again, a lot of people think beer reps, they go out all night and they sleep in all morning, but we know that's not true. So what do you do to get up and motivate yourself first thing in the morning after a long night of drinking or just hanging out at an account?
Yeah, I mean,
you got 2 dogs, you said, right?
We get up every day very early and walk our dogs. So I have no problem getting up. I've always been an early riser. As far as being motivated to work, I love, the little wins that come and sort of the feeling that you're like, wow, that really worked out. Or you got a new account or something worked out, getting an account that was a challenge, and maybe it took like 8 months of sort of once a month. So the hunt is what gets you motivated. Well, I mean, when you get that new thing, it's really funny. Like in January, I had accounts just reach out to me randomly, and it just felt like everything happened well that month. I had accounts I'd never heard of reach out and say, hey, I could use a keg of something. And that was just a great month where every day felt great. And it's easy to get up in the morning and feel like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna see what happens today, because it's sort of like no day is ever the same.
Yeah, and then February you had to collect.
Exactly.
There we go. Yeah. Thanks, Jeremy, for coming in, and thanks for being such a chill guy and doing your job. Jeremy is the licensee sales rep for Toronto west of Roncy, but a little pocket in between. Thanks, Jeremy, so much. It's awesome talking to you and learning a little bit more about your job.
Thanks, Troy. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the Canuck. And thanks for everything else. We'll see you
at the brewery. It's time to shift gears and head to our man in the lab. Cole Raskums is here for another edition of Cole's Notes. Cole's Notes, yeah, but Cole's Notes. Then Cole comes on, okay. Welcome back to the pod, Cole. I understand you'll be talking about something the folks in the medieval times called God is good.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about fermentation. Welcome back to another Coles Nook segment, everybody. Today we're going to talk about what our yeast is doing during fermentation and why it's so important to making our beer. So the life cycle of yeast can be broken down into three major phases: the lag phase, the exponential growth phase, and the stationary phase. The lag phase begins when we pitch our yeast into our newly extracted wort. During this time, the yeast cells are getting acclimatized to their nutrient-rich environment. They're uptaking many of the vitamins, minerals, and amino acids found naturally in the wort, in addition to some of the oxygen pumped in to the solution from the brewers. With all these factors present, they begin to grow and multiply, getting ready for their fermentation journey ahead of them. The lag phase lasts for around half a day, and brewers typically won't see any activity in the fermenter at this time because the yeast technically hasn't started its fermentation yet. The next phase is the exponential growth phase. This is when the yeast begins to consume the sugar in the wort and reproduce rapidly. When the yeast consumes the sugars, it starts with simpler single unit or monosaccharide sugars like sucrose and fructose because they are the easiest to metabolize. They then move on to more complex sugars such as maltose and maltotriose. As the yeast consumes these sugars, it produces ethanol and carbon dioxide, giving the fermentation its characteristic bubbling. The yeast also produces a variety of fusel alcohols, esters, sulfur, and diacetyl during this rapid feeding frenzy. More on that in just a moment. So when the yeast starts to run out of its sugary food to eat, it enters the final phase of fermentation, the stationary phase. At this time, the yeast cleans up the mess it made from its frantic fight for free food and reabsorbs diacetyl, an off flavor that gives off kind of a butterscotch aroma. Now that the yeast has finished its meal and cleaned up after itself, it does what most of us do after a big Thanksgiving meal. It takes a nap. The dormant yeast cells settle to the bottom of the tank in a process known as flocculation, clarifying the beer and making it easy for us to collect them for a future fermentation. Who knew that science could taste so good?
Thanks, Cole. Again, you wow us with your tutelage.
Have a good rest of the podcast.
Cheers. What's happening down at the brew pub? What's coming up event wise?
Well, to all who celebrate, it's St. Paddy's weekend this coming weekend, and we have a full lineup of events. So we have live music all weekend, starting Friday and running through to Sunday. We have a full Irish menu all weekend that consists of Irish breakfast, Irish nachos, which to those who don't know, it's waffle nachos. And they're delicious. And then we're doing a traditional Irish stew made with Great Lakes Stout and soda bread.
And obviously the Great Lakes Stout is going to be flowing all weekend.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll have drink deals, stout, and obviously the Jameson will be flowing.
Never heard of it.
Expecting a full house all weekend.
What's Jameson? Never heard of it.
Oh, it's a delectable Irish whiskey.
Oh, okay.
Make you try next time you're in.
We got a comment after the last episode from someone the other day. They were saying that they didn't know that we actually had a retail store down at the brew pub. So can you tell the listeners what it is and what you can get down there?
Yeah, the retail store is attached to the restaurant. It's just at the Jarvis entrance. And we carry all of our core brands, any new releases similar to Etobicoke. We have fun GLB merch, like sweaters, hoodies, new jerseys, as I can see someone is rocking.
Yeah, the hockey jerseys just came in and they look great.
Yeah,
actually, Jeremy Boyd is wearing one for his interview today.
Yeah, looking great.
So we have some news about a new patio, or at least I'm hearing that there might be a new patio down at the brew pub. Any details you can share?
Yeah, this is a hot leak coming in.
Hot leak.
Yeah. So yeah, we aiming to have a Jarvis patio open for April. You can sip on some cold beers after work and look out over Sugar Beach and Lake Ontario. It's going to be the hot new spot.
Wonderful. You're right on Jarvis Street. That's what you were saying. You'll be coming down Jarvis. You'll be seeing a lot of folks standing or sitting out on that new patio, hopefully come April, which is awesome. How has the updated menu been received? I know we talked about it on one of the episodes, new tacos, crispy chicken, crispy Canuck fried chicken, etc. How's that new menu working out?
It's great. The tacos are selling like tacos, you know. They're crazy popular. People are really, really buying into them. The Canuck is selling really well. We just added, I think I mentioned the poutine, which is has our Great Lakes stout in it and in the gravy, and it's the best gravy I've ever tasted.
Oh, okay then.
Right. And I love gravy. So we are adding some lighter options for spring. So we have some Buddha bowls coming soon. Watch this space. Yeah.
Yes.
As per your request.
Oh, bowls are the best. Anything else you want to share about the brew pub before we call it a day, Emma?
Yeah, there's lots of events coming up. We still have the Brewers dinner coming on March 28th. The tickets are available right now to purchase on Eventbrite and on our website. $50. It's a great event and tickets are selling fast, so get them while you can.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Take it easy.
Around the industry.
There's been a lot more happening in beer over the last number of weeks. The thing that really pops out to us at Great Lakes and those here in Canada is the federal government, the Standing Committee on Finance, has a recommendation, 330 it's called, recommendation 330, is to modernize the excise tax to lessen the tax burden placed on Canada's locally owned and operated craft breweries, allowing the industry to continue to grow, add jobs, and contribute to local economies. So this is something Great Lakes has been part of for the last number of years. We are a member of the Canadian Coalition of Independent Craft Breweries, or let's start that over again. That's the Coalition of Independent Canadian Craft Breweries. I always get that one mixed up. A lot of acronyms in there. But we sit on a committee with a number of other breweries across the country, and we've been advocating for the tax modernization for a number of years. It hasn't been updated since 2006, and it's time for that change to happen. So we're anticipating some good news coming out of the Ministry of Finance on the federal side of things. So stay tuned for that. Beer news. We really miss Greg Clow. Greg Clow, just a shout out to Greg Clow. He was operating the website Canadian Beer News, and he did that for a number of years. Back in my day, he and I were blogging together. This is going way back, and we created a really good friendship over the years. And he was instrumental in bringing Canadian beer drinkers, but Canadian brewers and people in the industry, everything that you could possibly want in Canadian Beer News. He did that religiously, day in and day out for, I think it was 12 years. So just wanted to give a shout out to Greg Clow. He's folded that website up. He sold it, and so we're hoping that the new owners will do something great with it, just like Greg did. But at the same token, we want to acknowledge Jordan St. John and the Growler magazine here in Ontario. They've started the weekly craft beer news called News and Notes. So go check out the Growler Ontario to see what's happening in Ontario beer industry right now. In LCBO news, they've been getting their beer ambassadors out to visit craft breweries across the province, and Great Lakes was one of those breweries that hosted a learning day, if you will, at the brewery. So BAs came over. We hosted 17 of them. They're learning all about the brewery, learning about why buying local or why supporting local is so important, with presentations from the Ontario Craft Brewers Association and the Ontario Craft Cider Association. We gave them a nice tour of the whole facility, tasted a lot of beers together, did a little lunch and learn, and hosted a number of other local Etobicoke breweries that the BAs could sample from. So yeah, these are happening all across the province. There's ones happening in Ottawa, downtown Toronto, in Windsor and area. So it's great to see the LCBO really investing in their people to get them out to learn all about local independent craft breweries. Great Lakes also wants to wish Muddy York Brewery a very successful move to Stouffville. It was a sad day in Toronto beer when they made the announcement that they had to close their location in East Toronto for the move to Stouffville. But we wish Jeff and Susan and the entire team nothing but love and all the best in a successful move to Stouffville. And it's March 12th today, so it's only 5 more sleeps until St. Patrick's Day. There's a lot going on at the brewery and the brew pub all weekend long. Live music, games, bands. It's going to be great. We have Great Lakes Stout, which is our version of, well, the best stout in the province. And Love Your Stout with GLB. So come on down to either the brew pub or the brewery to partake in all the St. Patrick's Day activities. And that's it for Around the Industry this week. That's it. That's all, folks. Episode 3 has moved from the mash tun to the fermenters. I'd like to thank Krista McNeil from Round the Horn and Jeremy Boyd from Great Lakes for sharing their insights with us today. Today's episode was fueled by cans of our crushable Canuck Pale Ale, which you can find all over Ontario wherever great beer is sold. You can visit the brewery at 38 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard in Etobicoke or grab some delicious eats and fresh pours at our brew pub at 11 Lower Jarvis Street. We hope you'll join us again in 2 weeks when we drop a new episode. If you have any content you'd love to hear us discuss on the show or just want to tell us what you're drinking, drop us a line at podcast@greatlakesbeer.com. Until next time, please remember to keep tipping your glass of fresh GLB in the right direction. Supporting local never tasted so good.
To learn more about what's happening at Great Lakes Brewery, visit greatlakesbeer.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter or follow Great Lakes Beer on your favorite social media platforms.